Hello, and welcome to Conservation Skills in 10 Minutes or Less. This series of short, skill-based videos is brought to you by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. If you have a couple of minutes, pull up a chair and pick up a new conservation skill, or maybe refresh an old one, on topics ranging from fish culture to bird identification to stream restoration. Enjoy.
So we've allowed our carboy to sit for about an hour. We tested it. There's no residual chlorine left in there. So we're good to, at this point, to add our algae and inoculate the culture. Obviously, this is just water at this point. So we need to add not only the algae inoculum, but also the growth media, because algae need light, media, carbon dioxide to grow, right? So again, just being careful, taking the lid off. Anytime I just pop it off and then just sit it back on there, make sure nothing's falling in. This is a pre-made test tube that has just the exact amount of media that you need for this 16-liter carboy. I recommend that this video will come with a companion manual that'll tell you exactly how much media to put in here. I recommend having these pre-made like this so that you don't have to, once you're opening your culture system, you want to do this quickly. So this is weighed out, ready to go. Everything's ready, so it's open as little as possible. So again, all this is under the hood. You just want to lift the cap off. Don't touch the tube to the culture container at all. Make sure you get all that media in there, and then just put the cap back on. And then immediately take your algae culture, and this is a nice green culture. Get a good inoculum in here. I would just take it and lightly shake it up if there's any algae that's settled in the bottom. And then pull the foam stopper out. Do the same thing. Again, not touching anything to the culture container. Pour the algae inoculum in there, and again, put the cap back on. So at this point, you have the algae inoculum, the media. The other things that we need are light and aeration. The light will come last. The next thing we need to do is take care of the aeration. And for this, we use, much like we did with the flask, we need a bubbling tube of some kind. But obviously, we need something a lot larger than a 1 milliliter pipette. So this is a foam stopper, a piece of glass tubing, and then you'll see on the top there's a small piece of Tygon tubing that you'll see what that's for in a minute. But you can see, as we talked about before, here's the autoclave tape. You check, oh, there's the black lines. You know that this is sterile, so it's good to use. Again, anything that's going to touch the inside of the culture container, you do not want to touch with your hands. So the part that you can handle is up here where this aluminum foil is. So open it from that end. Open your bag from that end so that you're not touching anything that could potentially be contaminated. Reach into the bag. And this is what the bubbling tube apparatus looks like. It's just a piece of glass tubing cut to just the right length to fit into the carboy. A foam stopper, just like in the flask culture, keeps anything from going down into the culture. And again, notice I haven't touched this to anything. If it does touch something that you know is not sterile, I would just start, grab another one if you have another one that's sterile, or sterilize it again before you continue. And just lower this down into the culture. It just kind of sits on the top temporarily. Then you have a pair of large forceps You can see again autoclave tape, so you know that it's sterile. Obviously this end of the forceps is what you're going to use, so open it from the other end, pop that bag, pull your sterile forceps out, not touching them to anything. And this just allows you to push this foam stopper down into the carboy, but in a way that's as sterile as you possibly can. Once you get all the sides of the stopper down in there, you don't need these anymore. You can just grab it by the top of the stopper and just kind of twist, and that stopper will go right down into the carboy. So now we have the media, the inoculum, our aeration system. But just like with the flask culture, we need to filter that air that we're using to put in there. So that's what I'm taking this aluminum foil off the top. The aluminum foil is just so that you can touch things and not worry about contaminating. You see there's a little piece of Tygon tubing on the top there. And that's basically just a coupler between the bubbling tube and our air filter. And these are the same air filters that we showed you before in the incubator. So again, you see with the autoclave tape, these are sterile. You see the black lines. The writing on the filter should be pointing up. So this nipple on the bottom side, you shouldn't touch that if possible. And then you just kind of very gently push down with a little pressure and turning, and that fits right onto that Tygon tubing. Now we have the inoculum, the media, and the aeration apparatus. The last thing that we need for algae to grow is light, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. We have our inoculum, media, bubbling apparatus. We just need to connect the bubbling apparatus to our aeration, and we just use this tube system and just stick it right on there. You can see the air starting. This is actually a mix of ambient air with a pump, but we also send it to a mixing tank and we add straight carbon dioxide from a tank to this, and that just enhances the growth rate. It's not absolutely necessary that you do that. There's plenty of CO2 in air, but if you want your culture to grow quicker, you can just supplement with a little bit of carbon dioxide. And just like we did with the flask culture, remember when you first inoculate, you can see this is kind of a light green color. You just want to block it from direct light so that you don't kill any of the cells inside. In this case, we just have a little piece of plywood. Just slide it in the back there. You can see it's still getting light. It's just not getting that direct, intense light. So you do that for 3 or 4 days. You can see it growing. It's starting to turn green, a little bit greener. You just pull this off, and you're good.
Thanks again for joining us for Conservation Skills in 10 minutes or less. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like or hit the subscribe button, share this video with a friend, or even check out one of the many other skill-based videos we have in this series. Have a great day, and always remember, the beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you.